Welcome back to the deep dive. It is Tuesday, the 3rd of February, 2026. And look, I really don't want to start the show on a downer, but if you happen to be listening to this on the tube in London right now, just look around you.
It is definitely a mood out there.
It is a mood. It's gray. It's probably raining. The train is almost certainly delayed. And I bet everyone in that carriage is silently doing the exact same math in their heads.
Oh, yeah.
How much is this commute costing me? How much was that coffee I just bought? How much is the rent on the office I'm actually heading to?
It's the London tax. And it's not just a feeling in your gut anymore. I mean, we've got a stack of documents here today that suggest this mood is actually a breaking point.
We really do. We've got a seriously heavy investigation titled The Capital Turning Point. We've got some pretty fascinating internal strategy docs from a platform called VAConnect.
And that's pronounced VAConnect.
VAConnect, exactly. And we also have a collection of industry reviews that are, to put it mildly, pretty brutal.
Brutal is exactly the right word, because they are all pointing to a single, really uncomfortable truth about doing business right now in 2026.
Which is?
That London is flipped. I mean, for a century, the geography of London was your single biggest asset. You paid the premium because you had to be there.
Right. Being in London meant you were serious. It was the price of admission.
Exactly. But looking at these numbers, that same geography is turning into a liability. A toxic asset on the balance sheet.
Liability is a really heavy word for, the greatest city on earth. We love London. It's the center of the universe.
It is, of course. But let's just look at the data here on what they're calling the London squeeze. This isn't just, inflation. This is a proper structural crisis. When the cost of doing business actually exceeds the value of being in that location, you have a fundamental problem.
Okay, walk me through the math, because I think a lot of business owners, they feel this in their gut, right? They see the bank balance at the end of the month, but seeing it on paper is a whole different ballgame.
It really is. Okay, so let's take a standard role. Nothing fancy. A mid-level administrative assistant.
Okay.
Not a director, not a revenue generator. Just the person who keeps the wheels on, managing the diary, the emails, booking travel, making sure the Zoom links actually work.
The person you literally cannot function without, the absolute engine room.
That's it. So in zone 1 or 2, the base salary for that role is sitting somewhere between 32 and 38,000 pounds. Let's call it 35.
Which, frankly, for living in London in 2026 that's barely enough for the employee to get by. They are not living like kings on 35 grand.
No, and that's the heart of the problem. It's tight for them, but it's absolutely crushing for the business, because that 35K sticker price, it's a lie. It's not the real cost.
Here we go. The hidden costs. The stuff the CFO sees, but the rest of us kind of ignore.
You've got the employer's national insurance contribution at 13.8%. You've got the pension auto-enrollment at 3%. Look. But the big one, the one that everyone sort of forgets about until the lease renewal comes up, is the desk, the physical footprint.
The actual square footage that person occupies in an office.
85 pounds per square foot. That's the average in central London right now. So when you add the desk, the heat, the light, the insurance, the coffee, the internet, that 35,000 pound hire is actually costing the business over 50,000 pounds a year.
50 grand for an admin role. Wow. That is a lot of money to be spending on scheduling meetings.
It is. And this is where the report uses a phrase that really, really stuck with me. London waiting toxicity.
That sounds like a chemical spill.
It kind of acts like one. Okay. It just corrodes the profit margin. I mean, it used to be a perk, right? A little bump to help with city life.
Yeah.
Here's an extra few thousand quid because the tube is expensive. But now it has mutated into this mandatory 40 to 60% markup on talent. And the question the analyst asks here is just brutal. He asks, are you getting 60% better emails for that money?
Ouch. Yeah, that is the question, isn't it?
Are you getting 60% better calendar management than a firm in Manchester or Birmingham or, as we'll see, Cape Town?
And the answer, when you look at this productivity data, is not great.
It is a flat no. I mean, we're looking at the Oxford Economics Labor Market Report from just last month, January 2026. It shows that administrative productivity in London has been essentially flat since 2019.
Flat.
But overheads, up 34%.
So you were paying significantly more for the exact same output. In any other context, you call that a failing business model. If I went to a supermarket and the milk was 34% more expensive, but the bottle is the same size, I'd be annoyed. But if the bottle was half empty...
Exactly. That is the definition of the squeeze. And that is why we are seeing what this report calls a silent revolution. It's not just about cutting costs anymore. If it were just about cutting costs, firms would just fire people and try to use AI for everything.
Which they are trying to do, but, an AI can't call up a restaurant and charm the maître d' into giving you a table at 8 p.m. on a Friday.
Not yet, anyway. No, this is about restructuring how the work actually gets done. It's the shift from what one of our sources calls legacy bodies to smart outsourcing.
Legacy bodies.
That is grim. It sounds like something from a sci-fi dystopia.
It is harsh, isn't it? But it captures the economic reality perfectly. A legacy body is a person you hire locally simply because that is how you've always done it, even when the economics make absolutely no sense anymore.
Okay, but hold on. I have to play devil's advocate for a second here, because outsourcing isn't a new idea. I feel like we have been hearing about this for 20 years. Send it to India, send it to the Philippines.
Right.
If the math is so obvious, why didn't these London firms just do this 10 years ago? Why is this a turning point now in 2026?
That is the million-pound question, isn't it? And to answer it, we have to distinguish between what happened then, let's call it outsourcing 1.0, and what's happening now. Because outsourcing 1.0, well, for the specific needs of a high-end London business, it was, to be blunt, a bit of a disaster. It was a disaster for most high-end firms. I know people who tried it and brought everything back in-house within 6 months, tail between their legs.
They did. And the source documents we have break down why it failed in the really specific detail. It wasn't just bad luck. It was a flawed model. It was bad logic.
The industrial logic, they call it.
Right. It was this idea that labor is a commodity. You treat people like widgets on a factory line. You find the cheapest place on earth to put a warm body in a chair, which was usually Manila or Bangalore, and you give them a script to read from.
Hello, my name is John. How can I help you today?
Exactly that. And look, that works if you're selling broadband or handling refunds for a massive airline. It absolutely does not work if you're a partner at a law firm in Shoreditch and you need someone to manage a sensitive client negotiation file.
And the report calls this the quality ceiling.
It's a brutal but accurate term. When you're paying rock-bottom wages in one of these massive industrial call centers, you have incredibly high attrition. We're talking 20 to 30% of the staff leave every single year.
So just as you get someone trained up, they're gone.
They're gone for a 5p raise down the street. And that model works if you just need someone to read a script. Hello, have you tried turning it off and on again? It is disastrous if you need someone to manage a complex diary with nuance and judgment. You just cannot have a revolving door of people for those kinds of judgment-based tasks.
That makes perfect sense. You need institutional memory. You need someone who knows that when I say meeting with Bob, I mean Bob Smith from accounts, not Bob Jones, the client.
Precisely. You can't put that in a script. But let's talk about the second failure point, because this is the one that drives everyone absolutely crazy. The time zone fracture.
Oh, this is the practical nightmare.
It's the simple, brutal math of the clock. If you outsource to Manila or Bangalore, you're dealing with time zones that are GMT plus 5.30 or GMT plus 8.
Okay, so when I'm walking into the office in London at 9:00 a.m.,
your team in Mumbai is packing up. They're getting ready to leave. They're finishing their day. So you send an email at 10:00 a.m. saying, hey, I desperately need this data for the 2 o'clock client meeting.
and nothing.
You don't get a reply until you're asleep. Or worse, until the next morning. The deadline is passed. The decision has been made without the data. You look like an idiot.
That lag, the source actually calls it the coordination tax. It's fatal for fast-moving London firms. You can't iterate, you can't collaborate. You're throwing tennis balls over a wall and waiting 12 hours for them to come back.
It kills all the flow. And then there's the third problem. This is the one people are usually a bit too polite to talk about, but our source goes right there.
The silent tiller.
The cultural mismatch.
Talk us through that. And let's be really clear, this isn't about intelligence or ability.
No, absolutely not.
What?
It's about professional norms and communication styles.
Yeah.
The source points out that London firms operate on a very specific frequency. It's direct, but it also relies on a huge amount of unstated context.
Oh, totally. Like when a partner sends an email that just says thoughts with a 20-page document attached.
Right. To a Londoner, thoughts might mean, I need you to critique this heavily, find all the flaws, and get it back to me in an hour. To someone in a more hierarchical, deferential culture, thoughts might look like a polite suggestion, or they might feel it's wildly inappropriate to criticize the boss's work directly.
Or take the classic British phrase, I'm a bit disappointed.
Yes, perfect example. I'm a bit disappointed. To a Londoner, that means I am absolutely furious and you are in very serious trouble.
It's basically a final warning.
It is. But in some traditional BPO cultures, which are often very conflict averse, they might interpret that literally, oh, he's just a little bit sad, it's fine. And so the behavior doesn't change.
And nothing gets fixed.
Exactly. The source talks about the problem of urgency signaling. Understand the subtle difference between an email that's genuinely urgent and one that's just, do this when you have a moment. All that nuance just gets lost in translation with outsourcing 1.0.
So, to sum up, London firms tried this. They got burned. They spent a fortune fixing the mistakes. They brought all the work back in-house, and they just accepted the high costs, the £50 K-admin, as the necessary price of doing business in the capital.
Until now. Until the squeeze got too tight and a new, much smarter option appeared on the map.
And this is where we pivot to the hero of our story, geographically speaking anyway, South Africa.
The South African arbitrage.
I have to say, reading through this research, it seems so blindingly obvious in hindsight, but for a very long time, it was a total blind spot.
It really was. The source calls it geography as destiny, and it all starts with the clock.
Let's talk about the time zone first, because we just spent 5 minutes bashing the time zone issues with Asia. How does South Africa compare?
It is, for London, perfect. South Africa's on GMT +2.
GMT +2, so that's what, 2 hours ahead of London?
It's 2 hours ahead during British winter, and only 1 hour ahead during British summertime. It's essentially the same working day. You're online at the same time. You can pick up the phone. You can have a Zoom call. But here's the magic trick.
Go on.
Because they're just slightly ahead, you get what the source calls the morning handoff advantage.
Okay, walk us through that, because I think this is one of the key takeaways.
It's huge. Okay, so imagine you're a lawyer in London. You wake up at 7 a.m. It's raining. You're tired. Your admin in Cape Town started work at 8 a.m. their time.
Which was 6 to 7 a.m. London time, when
Yeah.
I was still asleep.
Exactly. So while you were sleeping, or in the shower, or fighting for a tiny bit of space on the Northern Line, they have already been working for an hour or two.
So they've cleared the inbox.
They've cleared your inbox of all the junk. They have prepared the briefing file for your 9 a.m. client meeting. They have chased the outstanding invoices from yesterday. They have done the deep work before the chaos of the London day really kicks off.
That's incredible. With Manila, they're leaving as you arrive. With New York, they're still fast asleep.
South Africa is pretty much the only major English-speaking outsourcing hub that allows you to start your day ahead of the London clock. You get the entire business day of overlap, plus this golden 2-hour window of prep time. It's a game changer.
But it's not just the clock, is it? We talked about the cultural mismatch with outsourcing 1.0, the whole I'm a bit disappointed problem. The source talks about something called the Commonwealth advantage here.
This is where it gets really fascinating. It's almost sociology. The source emphasizes that professionals in South Africa don't just speak English, they speak British English.
And what does that mean in practice?
It means they use the same formality registers. They understand indirect politeness strategies. They spell color with a U. They know what a bank holiday is. They get the cultural references.
Do they get British sarcasm?
They excel at sarcasm. The source notes that South African humor is often very dry, very similar to British humor. It actually helps bond teams.
Yeah.
But on a structural level, it goes even deeper. The education system in South Africa, specifically the university system where these VAs are coming from, is historically modeled on the British system.
And we have a stat on this, which is just, it's amazing. South African graduates in business and administration score within 3% of UK graduates on standardized communication assessments.
Within 3%. That is statistically negligible. It's within the margin of error. So you're getting a person who writes like you, who thinks like you, who understands professional hierarchy like you. But because of the huge difference in the cost of living, the purchasing power parity, they cost 60 to 70% less.
That's the arbitrage. It isn't cheap labor. It's highly skilled labor in a much more cost-efficient geography.
And that is a really fundamental shift in thinking. You aren't hiring help to do the grunt work. You are hiring a peer, a colleague, who just happens to live in a cheaper city. It's like hiring someone brilliant in Leeds, except Cape Town is even more cost-effective and, let's be honest, has much better weather.
Okay, so the logic is sound. The geography works, the culture works, the time zone is a dream. But how do you actually find these people? I mean, I can't just fly to Cape Town and start handing out flyers on the beach.
And you probably shouldn't just go on a generic freelance website either. This is where we get into the internal documents we were given from VAConnect.
VAConnect, and again, for our listeners, that's spelled VAConnect.
Right, and what's really interesting about this company is that they are not trying to be everything to everyone. The source material constantly compares them to platforms like Upwork or Fiverr, and the contrast is just, It's stark.
They use this great analogy in one of their own strategy docs, the local butcher versus Amazon.
Yes. Let's unpack that because it's perfect. Upwork is Amazon. It's a fast, algorithmic marketplace. You have endless selection, millions of profiles, but there is absolutely no curation. You have to do all the work yourself, sifting through the noise.
You post a job and you get 500 applications in 10 minutes, and 490 of them are bots or people who are completely unqualified.
It's a nightmare. If you get a bad cut of meat on Amazon, that's on you for not reading the 10,000 reviews. It's incredibly high friction for the buyer.
And VAConnect is the local butcher.
They're the butcher. They curate, they source specifically for quality. They know the provenance of the talent. And the numbers here really back this up. The acceptance rate for new applicants onto the VAConnect platform is approximately 7%.
7%. That's like getting into Oxford. It's Harvard-level rejection rates.
It is extremely selective. You compare that to Upwork, where the acceptance rate is effectively 98%, because basically anyone with an email address can create a profile.
So what are they testing for? If they're rejecting 93% of applicants, what is the filter? It can't just be typing speed.
Oh, it's definitely not just typing speed. We got to look at their internal vetting protocols. They do things like timed business writing exercises.
And these are graded for British English specifically.
Specifically graded for British English. They're checking for the obvious stuff, spelling center with an RE, program with an ME. But much more importantly, they're testing for tone. And they do simulated client scenarios to test for judgment under ambiguity.
That's the key, isn't it? Can you make a good decision when you don't have all the facts?
That's everything. Imagine a test question like this. A very important client emails you at 5 p.m. on a Friday, asking for a report that you know isn't ready. The boss is in a meeting and cannot be disturbed. What do you write back?
Wow, that's a trap. Because if you say, here it is, and send an unfinished draft, you're wrong. If you say, sorry, I can't do it, you're also wrong.
Exactly. You have to manage expectations, you have to be diplomatic, you have to protect your boss, but also serve the client. That is what they are testing for. And they test for technical proficiency in UK standard platforms, things like Xero for accounting, Sage, Salesforce. They also do rigorous reference checks with previous UK or EU employers.
So by the time a London firm sees a candidate's profile from VAConnect, that person has already jumped through 5 or 6 pretty high hoops.
They're pre-vetted to an incredibly high standard. You aren't interviewing them to see if they're good enough. You're interviewing them to see if you like their personality. And that completely changes the retention economics.
Retention is a massive issue in the gig economy. I know businesses who hire freelancers who just ghost them after 3 weeks because they got a better gig.
It is the plague of the gig economy. The stats show the average tenure for a freelancer on a platform like Upwork is about 4 to 6 months. They do the project, they get paid, they leave. Or they get a better offer and disappear overnight.
And for VAConnect, what's the average tenure?
According to their internal data, the average tenure is 18 months.
18 months. 1-8. That's an employee, not a gig worker. That is longer than a lot of Gen Z hires stay in their first London job.
It is. And that represents real, valuable institutional knowledge. By month 6, that VA knows your client's kids' names. They know which font you secretly prefer for your presentations. They know that you absolutely hate having meetings before 10 a.m. on a Monday.
You can't buy that on Fiverr. You can't put that knowledge in a script.
No, and the business model is designed to support this. It says right here in their strategy docs that they incentivize long-term matches. They aren't just chasing the quick transaction fee on a logo design. They're trying to build a multi-year relationship between the client and the VA.
Okay, I want to move on to section 4 of our deep dive because this is where the rubber really meets the road. We're calling this section the humanized workflow.
This is my favorite part of the research, actually, because it moves beyond the numbers and the spreadsheets into the the sociology of modern work.
We are seeing a real shift in how these VAs are perceived and integrated within the London firms. I mean, it used to be a bit of a dirty secret, didn't it?
Oh, completely. The source calls it the embedded team member paradox.
Yeah.
Explain that. Traditionally, if you had an outsourced worker, you hid them. You didn't want the client to know you were using offshore labor because it was seen as cheap or lower quality. It was, oh, don't mind the background noise on the call. That's just the back office.
You kept them off the Our Team page on the company website.
Exactly. But with this new model, because the cultural and the linguistic gap is near invisible, firms are actively introducing their VAConnect assistants to clients as, this is Sarah from our team.
Sarah from our team, not this is Sarah, our contractor from Cape Town.
No. There's a quote in here from a managing partner of a law firm that I just loved. He said about his VA, "She CCs me on emails she sends to clients, and I don't edit them. That has never happened to me before."
That is the holy grail of delegation, isn't it? It's about trust. If I have to go back and edit your email, I might as well have just written it myself in the first place.
Exactly. If you're editing, you're not delegating, you're just correcting. And that trust creates incredible speed.
And it changes the workflow deep dive we mentioned earlier. Let's look at that time zone handoff efficiency again, but in a bit more detail.
The day-to-day rhythm of how it works.
So paint the picture for us. It's 10 a.m. in London.
Okay, so the London team is online. They've had their coffee. The VA in Cape Town is also online. It's 12 p.m. their time. So you have this core synchronous collaboration period from roughly 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. London time.
So they're on Zoom together, they're on Slack, they're working on documents at the same time. Hey, can you find this file for me? Hey, can you jump on this client call with me?
It's real-time problem solving. Then the London team starts to wind down their day. Let's say it's 6 p.m. They do a structured handoff. Here is the presentation deck. It needs these 5 changes made tonight. The London team goes to the pub or goes home, commutes, sleeps. The VA then works through those tasks while London is completely offline.
And because of that morning handoff advantage we talked about?
The work is done and waiting in your inbox when you wake up. The net result is that the firm has effectively gained 4 productive hours per day. They have extended their operational window without extending their own working hours.
We have some fantastic case studies here from the source material, real stories of how this plays out.
The skeptical convert is a common archetype we saw. There's a story of a senior partner at a consultancy who is absolutely adamant, "I need boots on the ground. I need someone I can see, someone I can yell at across the office."
Very old school. He wants to see the person sweating at their desk.
Completely old school. He resisted the idea for months. But his partners overruled him because the cost savings were just too significant. And now he's the biggest advocate for the model in the whole firm.
Why? What changed his mind?
Because his boots on the ground were costing him 50 grand a year and leaving at 5:01 p.m. on the dot every day. His VA in Cape Town is costing 35 grand, and critical tasks are magically done and in his inbox by 8 a.m.
He realized he didn't need a body in a chair. He needed an outcome.
Exactly. And then there's the other archetype, the integration surprise.
This one really struck me when I read it.
It's a story about a London-based hire who left the company after 18 months, which is pretty standard churn these days. But the VA, who had actually been with the company for longer, ended up knowing the internal systems better than the local employees. The remote worker became the keeper of the corporate knowledge.
That's a profound shift. The person sitting in Cape Town is the one teaching the new London hire how to use the CRM system.
It shows that geography really doesn't matter when you are the one who knows how the place actually works. Real power in a company resides with knowledge, not with your physical location.
Okay, we've talked feelings, we've talked culture. Now I want to talk cold hard cash. Section 5, the ROI of radical efficiency.
Let's run the numbers. And we'll take our time here because this is the argument that sways the CFO every single time.
So we established the traditional UK hire earlier, a £35,000 salary, plus national insurance, plus pension, plus the office space. Total all-in cost, 50,280 tins per year.
And that is a conservative estimate. This doesn't even include things like recruitment fees, which can be another 15–20% of the first year's salary if you use an agency to find someone.
That's a very good point. Now let's look at the VAConnect hire. What's the cost there?
The typical hourly rate is around £15 per hour.
£15? That is, what, less than the price of a cocktail in Soho?
In some places, yes. So you multiply that by a standard full-time year, which is 80 hours. You add the platform fees, and you are looking at a total annual cost of roughly £35,880.
So let's put those side by side. £50,280 versus £35,880.
The raw saving is about £14,400. That's a 28.6% saving right off the top, just on a like-for-like basis.
That is hugely significant. For many small firms, that is their entire profit margin right there. If you have, say, 10 admin staff, that's £140,000 straight to the bottom line.
It is. But and this is where the expert analysis in this report gets really interesting. That is just the dumb math.
The dumb math.
That's just comparing the cost sticker price. It doesn't account for the difference in value. To do that, we need to look at what the report calls the hidden multipliers.
Go on.
First, there's the productivity adjustment. We mentioned earlier that London office productivity is flat. In a typical London office, how many hours of actual, focused, deep work do you think an admin gets done in a 9 to 5 day?
If we're being honest. Between the coffee breaks, the chatting about what was on TV last night, can you just help me with this for a second? Interruptions at the desk, the commute delays, maybe 6, if you're lucky.
And studies say 6 productive hours is optimistic. It's often closer to 4 or 5. A dedicated remote VA, working a structured day without the office distractions and without a draining commute, delivers closer to 7 or 7.5 productive hours.
So you are paying less per hour, and D, you're getting more actual hours of work done.
Exactly. You are buying output, not just attendance. But the biggest multiplier of all is what they call the scalability factor.
This is huge for any business that's trying to grow.
Traditional hiring is lumpy. It's inefficient. If you're drowning in work, but maybe not quite enough for a full-time person, you still have to hire a full-time person. You have to go out and buy a whole person for 50 grand.
You can't just hire half a person to work in the London office. Hey, can you come in for 2.5 days a week? The best talent won't take that job.
Not easily, no. And certainly not the top tier of talent. But with smart outsourcing, the model is fractional.
Explain what that means.
It means you can hire a VAConnect specialist for just 20 hours a week to handle your bookkeeping. Then you can hire another one for 10 hours a week to do market research. You can slice and dice the talent pool to exactly match your needs at any given time.
So instead of one generalist admin in London who is, okay at everything, but probably not great at anything, you could have a team of 3 different specialists in South Africa for the same price.
Correct. You could have a finance whiz, a marketing support person, and a top-tier executive assistant, all working fractional hours for less than the total cost of that one generalist legacy body sitting in Mayfair.
So when you recalculate the ROI with that productivity boost and that flexibility in mind,
the real annual advantage jumps from that £14,000 figure to over £25,000 per head count.
that's no longer just a saving. That is a massive competitive advantage.
It is the difference between growth and stagnation. If you can reinvest that $25K per person into marketing or product development or sales, you win. It's that simple.
So we've got the why, the who, and the how much. But I want to know, how do they maintain this level of quality? It is easy to be good for a month. How do you stay consistently good for 18 months? Let's talk about Section 6, the secret sauce.
This comes back to the platform architecture of VAConnect. It is not just a database of names and CVs, it's an entire ecosystem designed for retention and growth.
We've got some other internal terms here. The first one is VA Varsity.
Pronounced VA Varsity, yes.
Yeah.
This is their internal upskilling platform. You can think of it like a private Udemy or a Coursera that's just for their VAs.
What are they learning on there? Is it just intro to typing?
No, it's very high level. They're taking courses on advanced UK business practices, soft skills like negotiation and stakeholder management, and very specific software training, like becoming a certified expert in Xero or Salesforce or HubSpot.
So the VAs are constantly getting sharper and adding new skills.
And this answers the question, what if my business needs change? Well, the VA can upskill through VA Varsity to meet that new need. You don't have to fire them and go find someone new. You just assign them a training module. It's incredible.
And then there's this wellness initiative, which sounds a bit out there. It's called Atomic Energy.
Atomic Energy, I love the name. It sounds really intense, but it's actually about sustainability and preventing burnout.
The documentation mentions dietitians, exercise coaches, mental mobility coaches. Why is an outsourcing company paying for exercise coaches? That seems extravagant.
It seems that way, but it's actually highly strategic.
Yeah.
Because healthy, happy remote workers burn out less. Remote work can be very isolating. Sitting in a home office in Cape Town for 8 hours a day can be draining. Atomic Energy is designed to keep the human behind the screen functioning at their absolute peak performance.
It's asset maintenance, really, but in the most human sense. If you don't change the oil in your car, the engine breaks down. If you don't look after the VA's mental and physical health,
They quit, or their work quality suffers. It's about protecting the asset. And then there's the VPness program.
VPness, as in happiness.
It is their happiness program. And what's really interesting is that their internal documents describe it as a two-way happiness model.
Two-way? What does that mean?
It means they manage the relationship between the client and the VA. Because often, let's be honest, the friction in a remote relationship isn't the VA's fault. It's the client being a bad manager.
I sent this task at midnight on Saturday and why isn't it done yet? Client.
Exactly that guy. Or the client who doesn't give clear instructions and then gets annoyed when the work isn't right. The VAPiness program actually intervenes. It coaches the London client on how to get the best out of the remote relationship. It makes sure the VA feels connected, appreciated, and part of the team.
That is so smart. It acknowledges that the London firm might need the training, too. We are all naturally good at managing remote people.
Absolutely not. We need to learn how to delegate effectively in a remote context. And all of this seems to stem from the founder of VAConnect, a woman named Karen.
Karen, we have a little bit of her backstory here.
She has a background in systems and processes in engineering. The philosophy described in the documents is small enough to care, big enough to guarantee.
It feels very boutique, very high touch.
It's a boutique at scale. It's applying rigorous process engineering to what is usually a very messy, very human industry. She has, in effect, systematized empathy and quality control.
Okay, we absolutely have to address the elephant in the room. The legal stuff, Section 7, compliance and the competitive landscape.
Every CFO asks this question first. Is this legal?
Am I accidentally breaking employment law? Am I going to get a very nasty letter from HMRC in 6 months?
The short answer is no, you're not. This is a business-to-business relationship.
Explain the difference. It's important.
When you hire a VA through VAConnect, you are not hiring an employee. You are signing a commercial contract with a service provider.
So it's like hiring a cleaning company for your office or an IT support firm.
Exactly. You pay VAConnect or the VA's registered business entity. The VAs are either self-employed contractors or employed by the South African entity. They are not your employee.
What about IR35? That's the big scary tax rule in the UK for contractors. It keeps thousands of business owners awake at night.
The source material is very clear on this. HMRC's own guidance generally excludes overseas contractors who are working from their home countries from the IR35 rules. Because they are not physically in the UK, they don't have the right to work in the UK, they are not taking a UK-based job in that sense.
So it's actually a cleaner and less risky arrangement than hiring a self-employed freelancer who lives down the road in London.
Much cleaner from a compliance perspective. There's no employer's national insurance for you to pay, no pension obligation for you, no risk of an employment tribunal being brought against you in the UK.
And from the South African perspective, is
Yeah.
this exploitative?
That is a very fair and important question. But if you look at the currency dynamics, it's the opposite. It brings strong foreign currency pounds into the South African economy. If a VA is earning, say, 12,000 Rand or more per month.
And that's pronounced 12,000 Rand.
Yes, 12,000 Rand. That is a very solid, formal, professional income in that economy. It's creating high-quality, formal jobs. It's contributing to their local tax base. It's a win-win export of high-value services.
Okay, so let's look at where VAConnect sits in the wider market. We have a comparison matrix here in the report. Because you could just go to Upwork, right?
We can break the market down into 3 distinct tiers.
Tier 1.
The generics, that's your Upwork, your Fiverr.
And the risk profile there is high.
It's high risk and it's high time cost. You might save a few pounds on the hourly rate, but you'll spend 15 hours of your own expensive time vetting people. And you will kiss a lot of frogs before you find a prince.
Tier 2.
These are the US-based agencies or the traditional Philippine specialists.
So that's either very expensive or a bad time zone.
Exactly. If you go with a premium US agency like Belay, you're paying US rates $40, $50 an hour. If you go with the Philippines, you're right back to the time zone fracture issue we discussed at the start.
And Tier 3.
That's the regional specialist.
Yeah.
This is where VAConnect sits. They are hyper-optimized specifically for the London to South Africa corridor.
It's a niche.
It's a niche that is rapidly becoming a superhighway. They have optimized everything, the vetting, the training, the legal contracts, for this specific pair of cities. They aren't trying to help a guy in New York find a developer in Ukraine. They are helping a person in London find a brilliant admin in Cape Town.
That focus really matters. So as we start to wrap up, we began this deep dive talking about a paradox, the idea that London's geography is becoming a liability.
Yes.
After going through all this evidence, the failure of old outsourcing, the precision of the South African cultural and time match, the platform architecture, where does that leave the average London business owner listening to this in 2026?
I think we are looking at a permanent, irreversible transformation. The source report calls its final section the verdict.
Give us the verdict.
This isn't a temporary post-pandemic cost-cutting phase. This is a deep structural shift in how businesses are built.
Yeah.
And the verdict is that London businesses now face a binary choice.
Adapt or die.
Essentially, yes. adapt to this new model of smart outsourcing, or accept a permanent 30 to 40% operational efficiency disadvantage against your competitors who do.
A 40% disadvantage. That is a staggering number.
Think about it. If your direct competitor has 40% lower overheads than you and is getting more productive hours out of their team, you cannot compete with them on price. You cannot compete with them on speed. You will eventually lose. You are running a marathon in lead boots while they're wearing Nikes.
The report says that within 18 to 24 months, this will be a competitive necessity, not just a nice-to-have advantage.
We're in the early majority phase of adoption right now. By 2028, if you are still paying £50,000 for a generalist admin to sit in a London office, you are going to have to explain to your board or your investors why you are willingly burning cash.
And it is expanding beyond admin, isn't it? It's not just about calendar management anymore.
No, absolutely not. The sources all mention this is moving up the value chain. They're seeing huge demand for marketing assistants, for project managers, even for junior software engineers. The model has proven itself in admin, and now it's being rolled out across the business.
So we're looking at a future where the London office is really just the strategy hub, the client-facing hub, and the execution engine is distributed globally.
The strategy is being set in Mayfair. The engine is running in Cape Town, and they are operating in perfect, seamless sync.
That is a very powerful image for the future of work.
It is geography as strategy, not geography as a burden.
Which brings us to our final provocative thought for you, the listener. We always like to leave you with something to chew on.
We do. And for me, it's this fundamental question of what local actually means in 2026.
Go on.
We have this ingrained idea, we cling to it, that local means better. That the person sitting in the desk next to you is inherently more valuable, more aligned, more trustworthy than the person 6,000 miles away. But looking at this deep dive, looking at the rigor of the training, the British English assessment scores, the dedication, I think we have to seriously challenge that assumption.
So here's the challenge to you, the listener. You're waking up in London tomorrow morning. It's probably raining again. You are stressed about the day ahead.
Just imagine for a second if your day had actually started 4 hours ago.
Yeah.
Imagine if, while you were sleeping, a highly qualified, culturally aligned professional had already done the heavy lifting for you.
If your competitor has that advantage, that extra 4 hours of productivity every single morning before you've even woken up, and they're paying 30% less for it, how long can you really rely on being local as your unique selling point?
In a truly global economy, the smartest room isn't always the one you're sitting in.
And sometimes the best person for the job is the one who is already halfway through their day when you are just pouring your first coffee.
Exactly.
That is all we have time for on this deep dive into the capital turning point. A huge thank you to the analysts and the team at VAConnect for providing the source material. We'll see you next time.